So we have a couple of these ready to be assembled, and the other thing that's really nice about a surface like this is it's super flat, right? So I usually take a chisel and just remove whatever else is stuck on here, and in the meantime some of these little voids I filled up with a little bit of Bondo, right? So what's really nice about a flat surface is putting down a sheet of sandpaper, just going around in circles, so everything gets nice and filled, and all of these just a little piece of sandpaper will clean that up. And I'll go back, and I'll hit the edges too, and these are just little sanding sticks.
So pretty much just deburring the edges.
Yeah, so this is where the two halves of the mold met over here, and there's always going to be a little bit of squeeze out, so I just take that off and then it's nice and smooth. Right, so now these things should fit together pretty seamlessly, right? Actually do it maybe a little bit more. It's like a pretty nice joint at that point, very flat, right? So get that out of the way. Get that out of the way. Okay. Take this, and I get these little hinges at the hardware store, and this is pre-made so these guys fit in here. Okay, but these are a little bit long, so I usually take some snips and I cut off the edges over here so they fit a little bit better. These guys I bought like a really long time ago. These are from, I think these are made by Irwin. They're so old, but they're literally just the greatest thing if you want to cut pieces of brass. It's like an enormous pair of scissors. So cool. So when putting these together, I find that the easiest way to put on hinges, after you get them fit and sized right, so you can see that this actually fits a little bit better now, and the hinge is right in the middle of where the box is going to break. Okay, so I'll take a small dab of super glue, put that down, put the hinge in place over here, making sure it's nice and straight, and then a little bit of activator over the top. Okay, and that'll keep my hinge right where I need it, and now I can drill my holes a lot easier and I don't have to worry about it coming off. After it's been glued, this really isn't going anywhere, then I'll go in with my rotary tool, which isn't on. Turn that on, and I'll drill some pilot holes. Do it one more time. Okay, so I've got those ready. And I also keep a little compass parts box, so everything's organized for me. Get 2 of those. Got a screwdriver that I use. That's that. And the drill. So the other reason why I really like this one is this thing comes out and I could chuck it up in my drill. And the best part about that is drill does half the work and then I finish it off by hand.
Pretty much threading it at the same time.
Yeah. So I don't go all the way through with the drill, reason being that it's still a piece of metal that's going into plastic, and you really can't feel it with the drill, but you know where the end is, finishing it off just like that. Okay, so now half the box is on a hinge. Okay, Okay, then we just do it again for the other side. Fold that over. That lines up. And we fold back over again, and everything should fit nice and snug. And it does. Just then get that, and where'd I put my super glue?
Where'd you put it?
No, for real. Where'd I put my super glue? There it is. Okay. So again, get a little bit of super glue. So the next part that we're going to be doing is we're going to be hiding these hinges over here, and for that we're going to be using body filler, everybody's favorite, Bondo. So the first thing that I like to do when I'm doing this is take a little bit of tape and tape off all the details. So now we're ready to Bondo, and this stuff smells really bad, so we're gonna do the same thing that we did before. We're gonna wear a mask. Now I just need to find my mask. Where's my mask? There's my mask. Haha. See? Thanks guys, appreciate the help. Put our mask on. This has been sitting for about 3 minutes or so, and it's just at the point where it's hard and it doesn't smear across a tool anymore. So what's really neat about this is it's not hard enough to sand yet, but what's really nice is you could take a sharp chisel to it and you can peel off just a little bit off the top and get the bulk of the material moved away. And now, rather than sanding something that looks like this, we'll only have to sand something that looks like that. So we're cutting down on our sanding time because we're really smart. Oops, do it there. And now after 15 minutes, we'll sand it down and it'll be ready for paint. So there's 3 different grits that I like to start with. I start out with 100, 220, and then this is somewhere between 400 and 500, so this gets it like super smooth. So we'll start out, and because we got most of it off with the chisel, there shouldn't be too much work to do here. Okay. And take a little bit of alcohol and just wipe off all the dust. And super smooth and flush. Ready for paint. So now that we're done sanding, we have to paint the back of these black in order to hide the Bondo. So the way that I usually do this is, if you come in over here, all of these little seams here, right there, I put my tape just around it where the inlay part goes. That way I'll paint this entire area black, and then we smooth it over with a little bit of steel wool to get it back to this kind of shine here. This is our little paint booth, and I have a little paint filter here. This takes all the fumes, kind of pulls it out. That way we're not breathing in all of this stuff. We're still wearing a mask. Excuse me, I need a mask. And that's how we paint things. So right now we're going to be making these pieces. We're going to be doing the rose that goes inside the compass, and we're going to be making the dial that sits over that. So the reason why they are this color is because we use something that Smooth On makes, and it's called brass powder. So this brass powder we're going to use to coat our molds the same way we did with the baby powder, and then we're going to back that up with resin in order to get something that looks like brass. the nice thing about this is that once we have it on there, what we can do is paint over it and then scrape away the paint just to reveal brass. So that way we don't have to get into fine details when we're painting. It's already there for us. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We start off with our molds. Open that up. And I always do this over a piece of paper. Right? So I'm gonna fill that up. And this stuff is super, super fine, and then we just give it a tap. And what this is doing is it's sticking to all of the silicone that the mold's made from. And I'll pull it back. That's all the detail and the negative of what we're looking to cast out, right? So you can see it gets into all the numbers, all the little details. Okay, so then we take our paper, we dump that all back in because it's expensive, and then we do it all over again with our other molds. Now that they're cast, let's peel them. So come on in. So that's one. And this is the one from Pirates 1. And then this is the one that's got our brass finish on it. This one with all the detail. So all the numbers, all those raised edges, and when we paint it, all these little details are going to start to pop out. So now that these are cured, let's pull them out of the molds and see what they look like. Not bad. And this will just be a little bit of cleanup with a razor blade to get the rest of that flash off. So we take a little bit of steel wool, and I always use 4-0 steel wool because it's the softest you can get. And just take a little piece of it. And if you lightly go over the paint, you'll see that they actually start to come pretty close, right? So it doesn't look really like spray painted anymore. Now it'll just kind of start to look like the plastic itself. So now that we have both of these masked off, we can get ready to paint them. So after the masking, we're gonna use something called adhesion promoter. And what this is gonna do is it actually etches into the plastic and kind of gives it a nicer surface for our paint to stick to. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Respirator's on. I'm not going to be using adhesion promoter on the rose. Like we talked about it earlier, all of these little things are raised up details, right? And that's going to make our painting process a lot easier. So we're going to paint this white as well. After it all dries, I'm going to come in and I'm going to scrape off the high sides, and that way everything that's low is still white, everything that's high becomes brass. After that, we can paint in all the rest of the details with color, okay? So, masks up. Thank you. it's been a few hours and now all the white is totally cured. And the next thing that we can do is we can paint in the star fields. And what's nice right now is that most of this is already masked, so half the work's already done. Okay, and now we're ready to paint the star field. I'm gonna do the second one and I'll meet you back at the paint booth. These have been drying for about 3 or 4 minutes now, and they're just skinned over enough to where we could draw on the stars. So what I started doing, and I think it's a much nicer effect, is actually kind of splattering them on. And what's really nice about that is it looks more natural, like a real star field would. And the other thing that I really like about it, it makes every compass kind of an individual thing. So they're all just a little bit different than all the rest. So if you have one of my compasses, you know that yours is the only one like that, and I think that's kind of a neat thing. So let me show you how I do it. So it's been a few minutes. Most of the gold paint is just dry enough to where we could pull off all the masking, and this is kind of one of my favorite parts of the build. It really feels like Christmas. So we're going to start with one,